The Millionaire Mind by Thomas J. Stanley, Ph.D. Picture this. It's the early 1980s, and a guy named Gene, who runs a salvage business, is sitting across from a senior credit officer at a major bank. Gene's just signed the papers on a massive deal, dozens of homes, a shopping center, several apartment complexes, all properties that had gone into default. After everything's signed, the officer stands up and waves Gene over to this enormous window on the top floor. From up there, you can see the whole city stretched out for miles. Offices, shops, homes, everything. The officer sweeps his hand across the view and tells Gene something that'll stick with him forever. He points to all those buildings and says, "We, the lenders, we own it all. Every bit of it. The businesses out there? You borrowers just run these businesses for us. You guys run them for us." Let that sink in for a second. How many people think they own their business, their home, their car, but they're really just managing it for the bank? They're grinding away every single day, making payments to the real owner, the lender. But Gene wasn't one of those people. Neither were the millionaires he knew. They'd figured out a secret most people never learn. They had what Dr. Thomas J. Stanley, after decades of fascinating research, came to call the Millionaire Mind. For years, Dr. Stanley dedicated himself to one intriguing question. Who are the real millionaires in America? Not the celebrities or lottery winners, but the everyday men and women who build lasting wealth, often in just one generation. His first book, The Millionaire Next Door, shocked everyone by revealing that most millionaires live surprisingly ordinary lives. They don't drive flashy cars or live in massive mansions. But that discovery led to an even deeper question. It's one thing to know what millionaires do. They save, they invest, they live below their means. But it's totally different to understand how they think. What's happening in their minds that lets them spot opportunities others miss, take risks others fear, and build not just wealth, but a genuinely fulfilling life. To find out, Dr. Stanley launched his most ambitious study yet, surveying over 700 millionaires and diving deep into their beliefs, habits, fears, and successes. The result was his masterwork, The Millionaire Mind. By the end of our time together, you'll have a map to that mind. You'll understand that becoming a millionaire has almost nothing to do with being the smartest person in the room, getting into the best college, or being born lucky. It has everything to do with developing a specific set of values and a unique way of seeing the world. It's a mindset that lets ordinary people achieve extraordinary things, and it's available to anyone willing to learn. Let's start by busting a myth. It's such a powerful myth, so woven into our culture, that we barely question it. The myth of the brilliant, straight-A student with perfect test scores who glides effortlessly from a top university into a life of wealth and success. We've heard this story our whole lives. Good grades equal success. High IQ is your golden ticket. But what if I told you that for most self-made millionaires, that story is complete fiction? When Dr. Stanley surveyed hundreds of millionaires about their school days, the results were stunning. The average undergraduate GPA for these incredibly successful people was just 2.92 out of 4.0. Not bad, but hardly legendary. Their SAT scores? An average of 1190. Again, solid, but nowhere near what you'd need for the most elite universities. Most millionaires didn't even attend top-rated colleges. And when asked to rank what led to their success, attending a top-rated college and graduating at the top of my class were near the very bottom of the list. Think about that. The very things our society treats as the ultimate success predictors, grades, test scores, school prestige, are considered almost irrelevant by the people who've actually won the game. This fascinated Dr. Stanley. He found that tons of millionaires had been underestimated. They were told by teachers, counselors, or standardized tests that they were average, not intellectually gifted, or not medical school material. One multimillionaire with a PhD from a top university told the story of his third-grade teacher, Sister Eileen, who divided the class into 3 groups. The smart kids sat up front, the average kids in the middle, and the dumb kids in back. this guy, who now owns 3 businesses, was put in the back row. He jokes today, "I must have been the smartest kid in the dumb row." Or, take Roberto Goizueta, the legendary CEO who transformed Coca-Cola into a global powerhouse. His college grades were so unremarkable that one of his professors later said he never would have expected him to achieve such incredible success. So if it's not genius-level IQ or a fancy diploma, what's the secret? What are the real building blocks of financial success? When Dr. Stanley asked his 733 millionaires to rate 30 different success factors, their answers contradicted everything we're taught. The top 5 weren't what you'd expect. Number 1, being honest with all people, integrity. Number 2, being well-disciplined, self-control. Number 3, getting along with people, social skills. Number 4, having a supportive spouse. And number 5, working harder than most people. Let that land. These aren't secret formulas. They're virtues. Character traits. Where did having a high IQ or superior intellect rank? Number 21. What about being lucky? Near the very bottom at number 27. These millionaires didn't win a lottery. They built their success brick by brick on a foundation of character. Let's look at that first one, integrity. For millionaires, this isn't optional. It's a non-negotiable rule of life. They see it as pass or fail. You can't get a C in honesty and succeed long-term. One successful real estate manager, John Barry, shared what his father taught him. Never tell one lie. If you tell one lie, you'll have to tell 15 more to cover it up. And each of those 15 needs 15 more. The math spirals out of control. It's simply more productive to always tell the truth. Integrity is powerful because it builds the one currency that truly matters in business and life: trust. Without it, you can't build a team, keep customers, or sustain a partnership with a spouse. Which brings us to the social side of success. Getting along with people, ranked number 3. This might sound soft, but it's the engine of all great enterprises. To illustrate this, Dr. Stanley shares a wonderful story about legendary football coach Bear Bryant. A senior executive told him that on his first day as a freshman scholarship athlete at Alabama, Coach Bryant gathered all the new players. These were the best high school players in the country, cocky and talented. The very first thing Bryant said was, "Have you called your folks yet to thank them?" The players said in stunned silence. Coach Bryant then delivered the lesson that would shape their lives. No one ever got to this level without help from others. Call your folks. Thank them. The message was profound. Your individual talent, no matter how great, isn't enough. Success is a team sport. Whether it's the offensive line blocking for a running back or key employees supporting a business owner, nobody reaches the top alone. The millionaires in Dr. Stanley's study got this deeply. They weren't lone wolves. They were leaders who knew how to attract, motivate, and appreciate people. This skill far outweighs raw intellect. This leads us to one of the most powerful themes in the Millionaire Mind, the idea of the comeback kid. So many millionaires weren't the stars in school. They were overlooked, underestimated, or labeled average. Instead of accepting that verdict, they developed mental armor. The criticism didn't crush them, it fueled them. Dr. Stanley found that nearly half of all millionaires were influenced by learning to fight for your goals because someone labeled you as having average or less ability. More than half said they were influenced by never allowing poor grades to destroy your goals to achieve. Think of Dave Longaberger, founder of the famous basket company. He was held back 3 times in elementary school and didn't graduate high school until he was 21. Or Robert Lutz, former president of Chrysler, who also graduated high school late at 22. These aren't failure stories, they're stories of tenacity. These people learned a lesson the gifted students often miss. Hard work matters more than high IQ, and resilience in the face of criticism is a superpower. This brings us to the core of the millionaire mindset, courage. Almost all self-made millionaires have it. Because building wealth requires taking risks, and taking risks requires courage. Now, it's crucial to understand what Dr. Stanley means by risk. He's not talking about gambling. His research shows a strong negative correlation between wealth and playing the lottery. The wealthier you are, the less likely you are to gamble. Millionaires are the least likely of all. They understand that gambling is a game with terrible odds, where you have no control. Financial risk-taking, on the other hand, is calculated. It's about spotting an opportunity and having the courage to act, knowing you can influence the outcome. The most fundamental form of this risk is choosing your career. A disproportionately high number of millionaires are self-employed business owners and entrepreneurs. They bet on themselves. Most people think being an employee is the safe path. Millionaires see it differently. They believe the real risk is having a single income source, a single employer who controls your destiny. Being self-employed means you're in control. The profits are yours, and there's no ceiling on what you can achieve. But how do they handle fear? The fear of failure is real. Dr. Stanley found that millionaires don't lack fear. They've developed specific techniques to manage it. The number one method? Hard work and preparation. They bolster their courage by believing in themselves, planning meticulously, focusing on key issues, and being incredibly organized. They don't leap blindly. They build a parachute before they jump. One fascinating finding is the link between courage and religious faith. For nearly 4 in 10 millionaires, strong religious faith is a key source of courage to take financial risks. They believe they have a partner, a senior advisor, in God. This faith gives them deep confidence and purpose that helps them push through uncertainty and fear. Truett Cathy, founder of Chick-fil-A, perfectly embodied this, stating, quote, "Our corporate goal is to glorify God. I see no conflict between good biblical principles and good business practices." This courage to be different, to bet on yourself, leads directly to perhaps the single most important decision on the path to wealth, the choice of vocation. Vocation, vocation, vocation. Dr. Stanley uses a brilliant analogy to explain this. He tells the story of 2 World War II fighter pilots. One was Major Eric Hartman, known as the Ace of Aces, with a world record 352 aerial victories. The other was his mentor, Paul Rossman. Rossman had suffered an arm injury that left him unable to engage in traditional dogfights, which relied on brute physical strength. He'd lose every time. So what did he do? He invented a new way to fight. Instead of raw power, he used his mind. He became a master of calculation, planning every single attack with meticulous detail. He'd only engage when he was in the best possible position to win, using a method he called see and decide prior to firing. He substituted creative intelligence for physical perfection. This is exactly what most self-made millionaires do. They realize early on that they might not be the smartest in an analytical sense. They don't have perfect SAT scores, so they decide not to compete in macho dogfight environments, where superior analytical intelligence is the only requirement to win, like trying to become the top partner at a prestigious law firm filled with Ivy League graduates. Instead, they use creative intelligence. They find economic opportunities others have ignored. They select a vocation they love, one with few competitors but high profits. The brilliant millionaires aren't the ones with the highest IQs. They're the ones creative enough to choose the perfect battlefield. Dr. Stanley concludes that if you make this one major decision correctly, you can win, and win big. Selecting a vocation is like building a house. If your foundation is on swampland, it doesn't matter how beautiful the house is, it'll eventually sink. But if your foundation is on bedrock, it'll withstand any storm. Consider Mr. Richard's story. He grew up in an upper-middle-class home and went to prep school. By all accounts, he should have followed a traditional path. But today, he owns and operates a highly profitable junkyard in the Deep South, specializing in used parts for 18-wheeler trucks. How'd he get there? While working for a truck manufacturer, He was asked to sell a wrecked truck to a junk dealer for $500. A few weeks later, his company needed a used engine and went back to that same dealer. The dealer sold them back the engine from that very same truck for $500 and still had the transmission, tires, doors, and everything else left to sell. A light bulb went on in Mr. Richards' head. He saw an opportunity everyone else overlooked. He realized who was making the real money. He quit his job and started his own business. Today he's a multimillionaire who absolutely loves what he does. He found his niche. Or think of Donald Sonner. He calls himself a dumpster man. He buys the seconds and odd lot cloth that textile mills are throwing away. What does he do with it? He built a business manufacturing underwear for prisons and gun cleaning patches for the military. He says, "At first I was laughed at, but this was money from heaven. I had an endless supply." He saw a market where no one else was looking. This is the power of creative intelligence. It's the ability to think differently from the crowd. But finding that perfect vocation isn't just a flash of insight. It's often a long journey. Look at Dan R., who failed at 9 different sales jobs. He was fired, or asked to resign again and again because he couldn't meet quotas. He was depressed, feeling like a failure. But he kept searching, intuitively knowing his skills didn't match the jobs he was taking. His previous jobs demanded a sales commando who just knocked on doors. But Dan was a thinker, a strategist. Finally, in his 10th job selling custom-designed handheld computers, he found the perfect fit. His role required market planning, understanding customer needs, and preparing detailed proposals. It was a consultant's role disguised as a sales job. In 1 year, after 5 years of cultivating a single client, Home Depot, he closed a $35 million contract. His commission check for that one deal was over $1 million. It took him 17 years of searching, but he finally found bedrock for his foundation. Once you've chosen that path, there's another decision almost as critical: choosing a spouse. The data is overwhelming. 92% of the millionaires in Dr. Stanley's survey are married, and their divorce rate is less than 1/3 that of non-millionaire couples. A long, stable marriage is one of the great accelerators of wealth accumulation. Why? There are economies of scale, of course. But more importantly, the right partner is a force multiplier. 8 out of 10 millionaires stated that, quote, having a supportive spouse was a key factor in their economic success. But what are they looking for in a partner? It's not wealth or high income potential, at least not for the men. When asked what qualities contributed to their successful marriage, both men and women gave the same top 5 answers: honest, responsible, loving, capable, and supportive. And what initially attracted them to their spouse? Again, the answers were about character, not cash. The top 5 were intelligent, sincere, cheerful, reliable, and affectionate. These millionaires, even as young people, had an uncanny ability to judge character. They weren't blinded by physical attractiveness or the illusion of wealth. They were looking for a life partner, someone who shared their values and would be there through thick and thin. Paulette Rakestraw, founder of a successful direct mail business, met her husband when she was a 21-year-old divorced mother building a business out of her apartment. She wasn't looking for a rich guy. She was drawn to his caring demeanor and the way he treated her daughter. He was a saver. She was a risk-taker. He'd rein her in. She'd push him along. They were a team. Their different personalities complemented each other, creating a powerful partnership. This is the common story. The Millionaire Mind understands that marriage is the most important business partnership you'll ever form. And you don't partner with someone you don't trust, or someone who doesn't share your vision for the future. This team-based approach extends to how they run their homes. Dr. Stanley found that millionaires operate what he calls economically productive households. This is where the stereotype of the big spending millionaire completely falls apart. Would you believe that the average millionaire household, with a net worth of over $9 million and an income of nearly $750,000, runs its home with the efficiency of a well-managed business? Consider this: 70% of millionaires regularly have their shoes resoled and repaired. Nearly half have their furniture reupholstered or refinished instead of buying new. 71% develop a detailed shopping list before going to the grocery store. And nearly half buy their household supplies in bulk at warehouse stores like Costco. To an outsider, this might seem contradictory. Why would someone who can afford anything clip coupons? The answer is simple: they think differently. They're not focused on first cost, they're focused on life cycle cost. They understand that a $300 pair of high-quality shoes that can be resold for 10 years is actually cheaper per wearing than a $65 pair of trendy sneakers that fall apart in 6 months. They understand that time is money. A detailed shopping list not only saves money on impulse buys, it drastically cuts time spent in the store. Time that can be reallocated to family, friends, or planning their next investment. This mindset perfectly captures their approach to their largest purchase, their home. The typical millionaire lives in a home currently worth about $1.4 million. But here's the fascinating part. They purchased that home on average 12 years ago for around $560,000. And the median year of construction for their homes is 1958. They don't buy flashy new mansions in trendy subdivisions. They buy quality homes in old, well-established upper-middle-class neighborhoods. Why? Because these neighborhoods have a proven track record. The values are stable, the neighbors are often other economically productive people, and importantly, the public schools are excellent. They see sending their 3 children to high-quality public schools as saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in private school tuition, a direct contribution to their net worth. And how do they buy these homes? Aggressively. They're patient. They're willing to walk away from any deal. They never pay the initial asking price. And about 1 in 4 actively search for bargains, homes that are part of a foreclosure, divorce settlement, or estate sale. They buy when others are fearful and selling, and sell when others are euphoric and buying. One of the most revealing case studies is the contrast between Mr. Green, the balance sheet affluent millionaire, and Mr. Blue, the income statement affluent big earner. Mr. Green, the true millionaire, took 13 out of 14 possible actions to get the best deal on his home. He shopped for months, researched prices, and negotiated aggressively. Mr. Blue, who has a big income but little net worth, took only 4. He was impatient, bought a home he couldn't easily afford, and paid a premium because he was rushing to show off his success. Mr. Green's home has tripled in value. Mr. Blue is trapped by his mortgage. This brings us finally to the lifestyle of a millionaire. If you've been listening closely, you've probably already guessed it's not what the movies portray. Dr. Stanley calls the typical millionaire a, quote, cheap date. When he asked them to keep a diary of their activities, the things they did most often weren't expensive. Topping the list for a 30-day period were socializing with children and grandchildren and entertaining close friends. Planning investments was number 3. What about expensive hobbies? Playing golf came in at number 13. Luxury shopping? Shopping at Saks Fifth Avenue was number 20, behind eating at McDonald's and shopping at Walmart. Their lives aren't centered around consumption. They're centered around family, friends, and activities that are either free or contribute to their growth, visiting a museum, engaging in community activities, or planning their financial future. There's a powerful lesson here. For many, the best things in life truly are free, or at least reasonably priced. Their lifestyle isn't a substitute for wealth building, it's a complement to it. Many of their activities, serving on charity boards, playing golf, socializing with friends, bring them into contact with people who become clients, partners, or suppliers. Their life reflects their mind, balanced, disciplined, and focused on what truly matters. They've discovered that you can't enjoy life if you're addicted to consumption. They've discovered that financial independence is the ultimate freedom. And they've discovered that the path to that freedom isn't paved with genius or luck, but with the quiet, consistent application of timeless virtues. They have the Millionaire Mind. As we wrap up our journey through the Millionaire Mind, it's worth pausing to reflect on the most powerful lesson this book offers. It's a lesson that goes far beyond money. For me, the single most profound idea in Dr. Stanley's work is the radical sense of hope it provides. In a world obsessed with celebrating innate talent, genius, and overnight success, this book is a quiet, powerful rebuttal. It tells us that the foundation of extraordinary achievement isn't built on gifts you're born with, but on virtues you can choose to cultivate. Think about it. The number one success factor is integrity. That's a choice. Number 2 is discipline. That's a choice. Number 3 is getting along with people. That's a skill you can learn, and a choice you can make every day. The message is liberating. Your future isn't predetermined by your report card, your IQ score, or the family you were born into. It's determined by your character. This book reminds us that the American dream, for all its complexities, is still alive for those who approach it with the right mindset. It's not about finding a get-rich-quick scheme. It's about the patient, methodical, and often unglamorous work of building a life of substance. The millionaires in this book didn't stumble into wealth. They built it, day by day, through disciplined habits, courageous decisions, and a deep understanding of what truly holds value. They teach us that true wealth isn't just about the number in your bank account. It's about freedom. The freedom from debt. The freedom to control your own time. The freedom to walk away from a deal, a job, or a situation that doesn't align with your values. And the freedom to build a life that's balanced, joyful, and rich in relationships. So how can you start applying the principles of the Millionaire Mind in your own life, starting today? Here are 3 simple actions you can take. First, redefine how you measure success. For 1 week, stop thinking about grades or external validation. Instead, keep a small journal and at the end of each day, ask yourself, was I honest today? Was I disciplined in the things that matter? Did I treat people well? Start building the foundation of character, because as this book proves, everything else is built on top of it. Second, become a collector of knowledge in one specific area that fascinates you. Just like Joe Smith in the hardware business or Mr. Richard in the junkyard, find a niche. It doesn't have to be a business idea yet. Just pick a topic, anything from sustainable farming to vintage watches, and decide to become the most knowledgeable person you know on that subject. Read everything you can. Talk to experts. As you collect knowledge, you'll begin to see opportunities that are invisible to everyone else. Third, practice life cycle cost thinking on one purchase this month. Whether it's a pair of shoes, a kitchen appliance, or even a piece of software, resist the urge to just buy the cheapest option. Instead, ask yourself, what's the true cost over the long term? Which option is built to last? Which one will save me time and frustration down the road? This simple shift in thinking, from short-term price to long-term value, is a cornerstone of the Millionaire Mind. In the end, the Millionaire Mind is about so much more than becoming a millionaire. It's a blueprint for a life of purpose, resilience, and quiet confidence. It teaches us that the most valuable assets we can ever possess aren't stocks or real estate, but integrity, discipline, and the courage to think differently from the crowd. That was a deep dive into The Millionaire Mind by Dr. Thomas J. Stanley. We've journeyed through the core ideas today, but I'll be completely honest with you. A summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you walk the path yourself. The true magic happens in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or simple phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is your guide to help you decide if this book deserves your time. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning information. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself, your work, and your life. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to keep exploring the wisdom found in the world's most impactful books, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.